Will you put your hands together and welcome Joel Flake?
When it's really hot outside and you don't own a swimming pool and you're about 10 years old, it's not a bad idea to fill the trash cans up with hose water and swim, even with live maggots. Maggots are interesting. They're part of a metamorphosis of the housefly. They go from egg to larva to pupa to housefly. In other words, for insects, they must undergo a complete transformation of their nature and character before they reach the full measure of their potential. I believe that for humans, it's no different. What is different is that for insects, metamorphosis just happens, whereas for humans, they must choose to evolve. If they don't, they are stuck in a life that is unremarkable and frozen in stagnation. They grow older but not wiser. They accumulate possessions but no wealth. They trade in a life of adventure and excitement for one of ease and comfort. Metamorphosis always requires hard work. As one of 11 children being raised in West Virginia, we had to do a lot of things to make ends meet. One of those things was that we bought our clothes from a discount clothing store called Gabriel Brothers. And this store was known for selling brand new name brand clothes that were slightly defective. Brand new jeans with one leg a little longer than the other, or a new polo shirt with a small cigarette burn in the back. In grade school, these defective clothing went largely unnoticed. But in junior high, that wasn't the case. And at age 14, for the first time in my life, I was labeled as poor, or as they call it in West Virginia, a grit, a piker, a redneck, a hillbilly. I knew that one way out of this was to make money, but in West Virginia, jobs were few and far between for teenagers. Fortunately, I had been raised in a big family, and I came with some certain qualities that were unique. I was resourceful, and I knew how to work hard. I contacted my uncles 2,200 miles away in far-off Boise, Idaho, and wiggled my way onto the summer payroll of their farms and construction companies. I had to pay my own way most of the time, sometimes taking the train from Pittsburgh to the depot here in Boise. But although the jobs were never glorious, they were important. I weeded sugar beet fields with the Mexican laborers and cleaned up construction sites. They weren't glorious, but I earned money and I saved it. It helped pay for my college, and it allowed me every summer to find the most highest paying jobs and travel there. One summer while in college, I found myself selling pest control door to door in California. I was making gobs and gobs of money until I met this blonde-haired, blue-eyed California girl, and I was worthless after that. But fortunately, up to that point, I had made enough money to buy an engagement ring and my very first car at the Modesto Auto Auction, a teal Geo Metro with no air conditioning and no stereo, which I remedied by buying a battery-operated radio that I kept behind the floor of the driver's seat, and I would change the radio station by moving my thumb across the dial. Even with that, she married me. You laugh, but I had come a long ways from that junior high boy so preoccupied with what others thought of his clothing. I had changed, and yes, I had a car and a college education, but more than that, my nature and character had changed. Engaging in hard work gave me a confidence I had not previously enjoyed in my life, and that confidence was important for the next stage of metamorphosis. Metamorphosis also requires taking risks. I did really well in college. I got into a top 10 law school, did well there, secured a prestigious federal 2-year clerkship with the Honorable Larry M. Boyle, and none other than here in Boise, Idaho. And after my clerkship, I got hired at the second best law firm in Boise, Moffitt Thomas. And about a year into my term there, I found myself at the annual law firm retreat in Twin Falls, Idaho at the Blue Lakes Country Club. And they were awarding solid gold pocket watches to those attorneys who had completed 25 years of work at the law firm. I felt a sick feeling in my stomach because I knew that would never be me. And I even turned to my wife and quietly confessed, I never want a gold pocket watch. A few months later, I was introduced to an acquaintance that I had heard was thinking of starting a pest control company in Boise and was looking for a business partner. We met, and I was excited about it. The problem was that my wife was 8 months pregnant with our 4th child. We had just built our first home. I had a little law school debt, and I was just making real money for the very first time. Also, the recession had just begun in earnest. It was 2006. So cautiously, I talked to my wife that evening, but wasn't surprised when she said, I think you should do it. That would be great. It wasn't easy. I still had cases, and so I would put on my suit and tie, go to the 10th floor of the US Bank building and conduct depositions and write briefs until about noon. And then I would drive over to my grandma's beauty shop on State Street, Lorraine's Unique Boutique, and like a superhero, change out of my suit and tie and put on flip-flops, board shorts, a polo shirt, and a metal binder, and I would go out knocking on people's doors, asking them if they wanted to be customers of my new pest control company. Yeah, some of you are shaking your heads. It was humiliating. I was an attorney, and these people were treating me like a door-to-door salesman. Worse than that, occasionally I would knock into the homes of other attorneys that I knew. I still remember one time in Hidden Springs when I knocked on the door of a fellow attorney. I didn't know he lived there. When he opened the door, we were equally surprised. And he looked at me and said, "Joel, what are you doing here? And why are you dressed like that?" My risk paid off. Who here has ever had a service from Gemtek Pest Control or Gemtek Homekeeping? Cha-ching, thank you. Yeah, within 4 years, we became the largest privately held pest control company in the state of Idaho. 10,000 customers from McCall to Sun Valley to Twin Falls, 22 trucks and 70 employees. We were making gobs and gobs of money. And good news, it was still the recession. So we took those profits and invested them in distressed properties, duplexes, fourplexes, commercial properties. And when that dried up, we took the profits and we started a commercial cleaning and a commercial and residential cleaning company, and we acquired a bed bug company. We were making gobs of money. It was laughable. And I'm going to talk a lot about how rich I am. But you need to understand, it's not because I'm vain or materialistic. It's because that boy who was swimming with the maggots finds it so comical. I had changed, and of course, the wealth had changed, but my character had changed. Going from an employee to an entrepreneur was magical. Knowing that I could create business, I could create wealth, gave me the security to have the confidence to engage in that next stage of metamorphosis. The great philosopher, Mike Tyson, once said, "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face." And I believe this. For the last 4 or 5 years, my life was incredible. We had a beautiful 5,000 square foot home on 12 acres on the Payette River. I have a beautiful wife and 7 great kids. I was coaching my kids' undefeated football team, and I was the leader of our local church. We would ski 40 days a year at our chalet at Tamarack. And did I mention? I was rich, filthy rich. My life was good. But I could not deny that I did not feel like my metamorphosis was complete, that there was more change to come. But believe you me, I resisted it. Until last year, on April 4th of last year, my oldest son, who was a junior in high school at the time, walked into my office, teary-eyed, and said, "Dad, I'm gay." I'm not aware of any words in the English language that would describe my shock, but fortunately, I had the wherewithal to say to him, "Son, my love for you is unconditional. I'm sorry that you carried this knowledge your whole life alone. Thank you for telling me and help me to understand how to be a good father to you." Later, he confessed to me that he had even considered suicide and had gone as far as to plan out exactly how he would do it. He was so terrified that I would find out that he was gay because he was convinced that I would kick him out of the house. That destroyed me. Knowing that I had lived my life in a way that would lead any of my children to believe that I was capable of such a despicable action. No more. I refuse to let old dogmas and old commitments and cultural norms to define the relationship I was going to have with my children, or to dictate the kind of life that I was going to finish. I changed. My political leanings changed. My religious beliefs evolved. My rural living ended. During a 2-month time period last spring, I found out my son was gay. I became unemployed. I put my house on the market. I resigned as the bishop, and I became a multimillionaire. My life's highest highs, as well as its lowest lows, were all occurring at the same moment. It's not something that was fun. To change that quickly, that dramatically, is a growing pain with which few can commiserate. But I was the better for it. My son's coming out and my embracing of it had not only made me a better father, but it had made me a better husband and a better friend. And most importantly, it had made me a better human being, now closer to my authentic self than I had ever been in my life. And I want to thank my son, who's here today, for that. Ammon, please stand up. So, to be sure, selling my companies made me very rich. Here's the check I wrote to the IRS this week. But it also required me to recreate myself and reinvent. Toby loves it. She's like, oh, I spent the last year acquiring pest control companies in Missouri and Arkansas and Nevada and investing in commercial developments in Seattle and Las Vegas. I had to start over, but it was my son's inspiration, his willingness to come out to a family, a religious community, and a culture that would surely disapprove of him, that motivated me to do those hard things in my life, to embrace those things. And so the final metamorphosis is a willingness. Metamorphosis is always going to require, at a basic level, a willingness to change. Last Christmas, my wife gifted me this, what appears to be expensive watch. I jokingly teased her and said, I was expecting a gold pocket watch. She laughed and said, very funny indeed. Turns out my metamorphosis had nothing to do with the clothes I was wearing or the watch I had or the money I was making. It wasn't about me being rich. It was about me having a rich life. Any wealth that had come as a consequence of my metamorphosis was purely secondary. A rich life is only achieved when one embraces the full measure of who they can be. I would have had a fine life had I stayed in West Virginia, or if I had remained at my law firm or not sold my companies, but I would not have had this life. I would have had a life less remarkable, less interesting, and less fulfilling. And I'm under no illusions. I'm only 40 years old. My metamorphosis is still not complete. But I'm really excited about the balance of my life. The question for you is, are you excited about the balance of your life? And if not, don't you think you should be? And whose fault is it? You know, I failed to tell you the most important part of my message, and that is this. I'm not special. I promise you, I'm not the most intelligent person in this room. I'm not the most courageous person in this room. I'm not the wealthiest. I might not even be the hardest working person in this room. So what is it? Is it luck? Is it fate? Hardly. I assure you, everything I have in this life, I have earned through hard work and courage and taking risks and being willing to change. If you perceive a difference between you and I, it is a reflection of your unwillingness to embrace change in your life. You see, the goal is not to become me. The goal is to become you. Are you you? You should take personal offense that somebody up here less capable than you is telling you something that you already know, and that is that you're leaving too much on the table in your life. Take it from someone who swam with maggots and owned a Geo Metro and changed his life around. You're never too young or too old to change. You're never too poor or too rich, too dumb or too smart to change. As the character in Shawshank Redemption, Andy Dufresne says, in life you get busy living or you get busy dying. If you take anything away from my message today, I hope it is a commitment to embrace change in your life. Let today mark a pivot in your existence on a pathway to a more full life as a better human being. Only you are the author of your life, the only captain of your ship. You should be a victim to nothing and no one, including yourself. I have chosen to evolve to play the hero of my life. Who will be the hero of yours? Thank you.